Well. Got a little update here. Fundraising numbers have come in last night, and Andrew Yang has blown it out of the water with the amount of money that this guy just raised. Huge numbers coming in for Andrew Yang. Okay. Um, and while that's great, now we're going to focus on a couple of other topics here. And it's going to include Andrew Yang in here as well. So, one thing a lot of people have been covering on their channels in the last couple of days is the fact that apparently Obama has supposedly said to some people behind the scenes that don't worry, if Bernie gets too far ahead in the primary season, I'm going to step in, I'm going to intervene, and I'll squash it and take care of it because, yeah, we're not going to have that. Um, So basically, what Obama is saying is he's not going to just let this play out, let the voters decide, who the nominee should be, that he's got his thumb on the scale, and maybe he doesn't exactly have a favorite of the corporate candidates, but he'll put the thumb on the scale for any single one of them over Bernie Sanders. Now, vicariously, you have to sit there and ask yourself if he would do that for Bernie. He would probably have done the same thing against Tulsi Gabbard. Probably may even do the same thing if Andrew Yang gets too much popularity. But I think he's really only focusing on Bernie right now because conventional wisdom is saying that, oh, Bernie's the only one out of the, Sanders, Yang, and Tulsi group that have any chance. Okay. Again, I'm going to wait till I start seeing some votes come in before I start, making a final decision on that one way or the other. Don't trust these polls. 2016 is proof of that alone. And all the people who, lived by those polls, preached the numbers on those polls, looked like Boo Boo the Clown the day after the election. Okay? So I'm going to hold off till votes start coming in before I really make my mind up one way or the other. But instead of just drilling in on the whole Obama, I'm going to stop Bernie thing, we're going to tie this into a larger segment because what you have right here, take the picture that I'm about to put up on the screen here right now. Take a good long look at that. Now, the other day, I made a video saying that MSNBC is trying to pretend that Tulsi Gabbard doesn't even exist. Okay? Now, I think one of the last Real Clear Politics polls showed her at a national average of about 1.8%, I think it was. Okay, and that's still very low. But at the same time, I'm going to go back and argue MSNBC made a clip and Andrew Yang put this out on a YouTube video to argue how they kind of made the case for him where he's only polling at 2%. So Tulsi's, what, 0.2 behind him, basically. Okay, and that is that the people back in 2003 who were kind of towards the bottom, two people that were really towards the bottom of that came in first and second place by the time it was done. And the people who were starting off in first and second place flatlined, and I think one of them, I don't remember if it was Lieberman or if it was Howard Dean, but their biggest claim to fame, as they said in that clip, was that they came in third place in like a primary. But yet they were polling in first. So again, that's why I want to start seeing the vote come rolling in. So just because they're down low in the basement, I let everybody say, oh, they don't have a chance. They just don't have a chance, blah, 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 blah. 2003 proved otherwise. And you might say, well, okay, they were, what was it? John Kerry was at 8%, right? It was a big field at the time, not as big as this field. Not as big as it. You didn't have anywhere near 20 candidates running back then. And we are still just now getting rid of some of the riffraff out of this race. There were dropouts today, from people that I don't even know that I've ever seen on the debate stage. A guy may have made one debate stage, but you still got John Delaney hanging around in this race. You've still got, you got Bloomberg entering the race. You've got Deval Patrick and his two supporters that are now into this race. Yeah, I mean, when this field keeps constantly, it was already this big in the first place, and then it keeps it, shrink a little bit, expand a little bit. That's divvying up the numbers to such a degree. And keep in mind, it's not that one particular person, even though like I think like the highest number is like just a little over 20%, right? But there's a good chunk, if I'm not mistaken, of a lot of voters out there who still have come out and said, "Yeah, I've not made my mind up yet. I have no dog in this fight yet." They hadn't made their mind up. Okay, so there's still plenty to be gained from what's going on right now. There's still plenty of room where things can be turned around. But as I said the other day on that video, they're trying to pretend she doesn't even exist. And take a look at that picture. You see what I'm talking about. So right there, they show at the top the people who have qualified for the next debate. And, of course, Andrew Yang, you see on the bottom, has met one of the requirements to make the next debate, but not two. Now, they don't even have Tulsi Gabbard listed, and she hasn't dropped out. She hasn't dropped out, okay? Now, what's so bad about the Tulsi Gabbard problem here? Well, one, not only are they completely ignoring her, okay, but also the qualifications to get into this debate are, if I'm not mistaken, you had to poll in 4 polls above 4%, 3 or 4 polls above 4%, and then if you could get above 6%, you only had to make 2 polls. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has been recognized by the DNC for hitting 6% in one of their recognized polls. But Tulsi Gabbard is also having a problem with the DNC right now because she has hit 6% in another poll and they're not recognizing it. And what is the significance of that, you might ask? Well, the significance of it is this. The other poll, she's 6% in, okay? And she's competing on a level with people, just almost on level playing field with Kamala Harris. Okay, so she's doing very well in this poll. Okay, it's a Boston Globe, Suffolk, or however you say that name, poll. Okay. Now, if you check DNC, they recognize Suffolk. Okay, they recognize that poll, but they've tried to come out now and weave some web of, BS as to why they're not going to recognize that one. Because it was some like independent or blah, blah, blah. So now we're going to move the goalpost here. So because she's been so adamant, she came out and attacked the Clintons, or Hillary in particular. She's come out fighting back against the DNC. She's come out swinging, okay? Now the mainstream media, because she's been at war with them as well, okay? People like MSNBC act like she don't even exist anymore. No, forget about her. We're not going to put her in our pictures that we put on your screen. We're not going to put her in any videos, okay? And Andrew Yang's the one who boycotted them, and they've even got him on the screen, but not Tulsi Gabbard. No. Because she has pissed the Clinton machine off way too badly at this point. So they're going to pretend she doesn't even exist. And then the DNC and all these people making rules to qualify for this next round of debate, I think on PBS, okay, now they're going to start moving the goalpost here saying, oh, well, you've got it, but there's something about that particular poll, even though we recognize Suffolk polls, that we're not going to recognize that one. Now, what is so horrible about all of this? Well, as I said the other day, lady asked a question back in a New Hampshire town hall to Tulsi Gabbard, and I wanted to know how come people like you and Yang, Warren, and Sanders, even though I could care less if Warren was on it or not, why don't y'all go do your own little thing? Go do a joint interview or a little small debate or something, and go on Joe Rogan or something, or let Joe Rogan be the moderator. And even if it isn't Joe Rogan, here's the point. Yang just got all this money in from small donations, okay? An astronomical number. People have been talking about it all morning, okay? That's huge news for him. I mean, that's really great for him, okay? But as it looks like right now, he might not make the debate stage. So he could be out of the next round of debates. Tulsi Gabbard, same problem. Even though she is at the threshold, just like she was at the last debate she wasn't able to be a part of. There were multiple other polls out there in the land the last time we had this problem who had a better reputation for being accurate on their polling, and the DNC wouldn't recognize those polls, but they would recognize polls that had her polling lower, and these polls had a worse reputation on how accurate they tended to be. Now, doesn't that make a whole lot of sense, okay? So she hit the numbers the last time too, and they wouldn't recognize the polls. They said, nope, we don't recognize that. And now, this is a poll coming from someone they recognize polls from, but they won't recognize that poll. I mean, the DNC is just making it very blatantly obvious at this point. So here's what we have going on before us, okay, people? And this is something I was listening to Big Talk, Little Talk last night on my way home from work. And this is a point that they brought up, okay? Right now, we are how far out from the Iowa caucus primary? It's coming up on what? Early February now, right? Okay. We're into December. And it looks like two people who've still been gaining momentum. I would say at this point, honestly, Yang has probably gained a little more momentum than Tulsi has, but they both still have plenty of grassroots support. Tulsi had a big fundraising month, I think in October. Okay. So they both still got plenty of grassroots support. They both have been getting good fundraising numbers, especially Andrew Yang. And now they may not even make the debate this month. And the mainstream media, of course, they pretended Andrew Yang didn't exist once upon a time themselves. And now they're doing it to Tulsi Gabbard. And so they're trying to just constantly keep pounding the narrative home, okay, that, oh, you don't even need to pay these people attention because they've got not a prayer of ever winning this nomination. And now you've even got YouTubers like Tim Black saying that he agrees with Kamala Harris. And you know what? And I liked some of Tim Black's videos for a while too. But now you've even got Tim Black coming out saying that, oh, wow, Tulsi Gabbard will never be able to put an Obama coalition together. Oh, and who will? Kamala Harris? That had a truancy program that affected more black people than white people? Kamala Harris that laughed at the idea of legalizing marijuana, one of the crimes that has more minorities locked up in this country for sentences today? And you do realize that because of things like that and because of the old Clinton crime bill and everything else, there are more black people in jail today than there were as slaves many, many, many moons ago because of laws like that. And of course, it isn't until recent times we started hearing this supposed progressive message out of someone like Kamala Harris. Remember, as Tulsi exposed in that debate, this is the same woman who refused to release information that would have let people off death row, and also tried to keep them in prison past their sentence dates to keep them for cheap labor for the state of California. Now, when you consider how many people of color are probably locked up in these prisons, and you're trying to keep them in a prison for the cheap labor for your state, to me, that damn near almost sounds like the old concept of slavery. Keeping someone in a position for cheap or just free labor, basically. And during slavery time, they didn't pay you for it. But you're locked up in prison. You got to do whatever they make you do in prison. So yeah, keep you in prison and use you for labor. Wow. Yeah, that's going to put a nice coalition of minorities together. I mean, great astute thinking on that one there, Tim Black. I don't know where you're coming from on that, because Kamala Harris certainly ain't gonna do it. Okay, who else you got? Pete Buttigieg? Have you heard his comments lately? Maybe old Joe Biden, because he was Obama's VP. His numbers are falling like a brick. Okay, so who do you propose that's actually going to do it? Well, me personally. Obviously Bernie Sanders would do good in that column. I think Andrew Yang will actually be able to do good in that column. Andrew Yang's proposing a system like universal basic income. Imagine how many families that live in urban communities and stuff that would be able to help out. Blue collar people all around this country, that are scrambling to make ends meet. Okay, imagine what that could do for someone. Okay, and then you've got the reforms Tulsi Gabbard wants to make. Now, obviously, Tulsi Gabbard focuses more on the foreign policy side of things, but still, yet, I got a feeling that when it comes down to it, not only is she going to be pulling those Republicans, but she's also, and people who voted for Trump for the anti-interventionism, I got a feeling that high minority vote that went for Trump, even though it's not a huge number, but it's higher than most Republicans have gotten in recent times, I got a feeling that number is going to shift back for Tulsi. Okay? Because, pure and simple, she's going to have the winning message. I really have a hard time seeing where Trump is going to be able to hang toe-to-toe with Tulsi Gabbard. But I can see where Trump will be able to hang toe-to-toe with a lot of these other corporate jackasses. He did it with Hillary Clinton. He'll do it with them. It may be a little bit harder than it was against Clinton, just because you had so much ammunition for Clinton. But I think it could be done a whole lot easier than it's going to be to take down someone like Tulsi Gabbard. Okay? But with that being said, they're clearly trying to, the mainstream media and the DNC, get the people to believe that there's no prayer for Yang, no prayer for Tulsi, phase them out, keep them out of these debates, and then that will affect what kind of vote they could get in these early primaries. And if they weaken them and just beat them down to the point that they end up dropping out, what's going to happen if this thing rolls to the contested convention? Because I don't see anybody getting a 51% for this convention, especially when you've got more and more candidates starting to jump in now. And apparently, Michael Bloomberg can jump straight into the race and is already, as many people have come out saying and this is again why I don't trust these polls. All the people that I've been watching clips of on mainstream media talking about why Michael Bloomberg shouldn't have gotten in the race, shouldn't have announced at this point, and if he wanted to run, he should have got in when everyone else did, and that they just didn't want him to run. All these people I've heard saying that, and yet somehow, some way, this rich prick is according to a recent poll that was shown on MSNBC, you could see it in my video I made the other day, he's supposedly polling at 3%, and Yang is only at 2%, and Tulsi's at 1.8%. So all this grassroots movement behind Yang and Tulsi, and the guy who I've yet to really find people supporting, he's polling higher nationally than they are. And you think these polls are reputable, do you? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to smell a rat in the room when you're breaking it down step by step and looking at all those details. Something doesn't add up there. So they're trying to phase them out, and then when it goes to the contested convention, you're going to have, probably I'm going to go with maybe at least 4 corporate candidates still left. Bloomberg will probably fund this thing all the way to the end. Biden might be hanging in there. Harris is falling fast. I don't know about her. I think Buttigieg will still be in there. Kamala Harris maybe. Okay? And then you might have Bernie and Warren. And no one's going to have the 51%. The superdelegates are going to hit. And if you think that Elizabeth Warren, if Bernie's polling higher, is going to give her support to Bernie, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. If you think Elizabeth Warren is going to be that backup for Bernie Sanders, you might be sorely disappointed at the convention. You might be really disappointed. Because if Elizabeth Warren was truly the progressive she's supposed to be, and truly the candidate that's the nearest thing to Bernie and has the best chance of winning behind Bernie and is still close to Bernie, why'd she back Hillary in 2016 over Bernie? She went with Hillary Rodham Clinton over Bernie Sanders. And yet she's supposed to be similar to Bernie Sanders. No, you know who endorsed Bernie over Hillary? Tulsi Gabbard. Matter of fact, she resigned as vice chair of the DNC so she could endorse Bernie Sanders because she was supposed to remain neutral, yet the DNC was working behind the scenes to help Hillary from start to finish. And she endorsed Bernie, yet the, senator here, Elizabeth Warren, who's supposed to be almost just like Bernie according to all these people, now she went with Hillary. So what do you think she's going to do when the convention hits? And if they're successful in their attempt to cut Tulsi and Andrew Yang out of this entire process, buckle up, man. Bernie is going to get unloaded on at the convention. They will rip this thing out from underneath him. And to make matters worse, if this story was true, and he lives up to his promise, the whole way probably leading into that convention, he will be campaigning against Bernie Sanders and trying to get you to support this person or that person or anybody but Bernie. You had the anyone but Trump movement, they'll be leading the anyone but Bernie movement. This 2020 primary season, going at this rate, this could be chaos. This could really be chaos. And I'll say one final point here. Tim Black said that if we wanted to give Trump a second term, because Tulsi couldn't put the Obama coalition together, blah, 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 and so that we would be handing an election over to Trump. No, if you allow Andrew Yang and the people of this country allow the mainstream media and the DNC to successfully get away with this, because remember, they can't go have their own little small debates now unless they plan to never participate in another primary debate, which at this point, maybe it's the best thing to do. Maybe that honestly is the best thing to do for them if they're not going to be able to participate in these debates. And even if they can participate in the debates, get very limited questions and hardly a fraction of the time of the other people. Therefore, it's harder for them to make their case on live television and resonate over. If they're going to get screwed like that anyway, why not turn to the internet? Why not do things like that? Why not take it back to basics? Because clearly they're going to screw you anyway. Maybe that is the option. I'd still prefer they be on TV, but at this point, maybe it's just not going to happen for them. Okay, so maybe that's what we need to do here. Maybe at that debate, maybe they should both go on Joe Rogan or something, separately, since they can't be on camera at the same time, rotate in and out, giving their reactions to what's going on live at the debate. Maybe they could do something like that. Who knows? But if they're successful, it's going to screw Bernie out of this whole, shoot match, and they're going to hand it back over to a corporate candidate at the convention. And Tim Black, once they do that, that is what's going to give Trump his second term in office, because the people are fed up. And even if the corporate candidate that they put together can pull together some sort of an Obama coalition with the minority community, there's still a lot of other people out there, and I dare say the minority community is even a part of this as well, because they're sick and tired of people coming around every 4 years pretending to be their friend, and then as soon as they win the election going, see you in 4 more years. They want someone who's probably going to actually start doing something. And the track record for people like Kamala Harris, it ain't there. It just simply ain't there. So, all I can say on this is it might be a long road to the 2020 nomination, and we should all start buckling up, because this could get ugly, and it could turn out disastrous if something doesn't happen to rein in the DNC and the mainstream media. We could end up with possibly the worst choice for a candidate by the time this whole thing is over. And if it happens, buckle up and prepare yourselves, because it seems to be that they're stepping on the gas full steam ahead toward that finish line of screwing over the populist candidates and screwing over the American people in the middle class once again.